Hi guys, today we're going to learn how to draw graffiti letters. I'm going to teach you how to write your name eventually in these graffiti letters, but first we're going to start with the alphabet. You will need a pencil, eraser, Sharpie marker, and some colored markers for this. Copy paper works great. If you want to work in your sketch pad and use sketch paper, that's fine too. We're going to start with the entire alphabet and then we'll focus on a name. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to need to do is to draw two parallel curved lines on your paper. And parallel just means they're going to do the same thing, okay? So I'm going to start here and I'm going to put a curved line that drops down and curves up. I want to have a nice curve, and then I'm going to go about 4 inches down and I'm going to follow that same curve up and down like so, okay? Now I'm going to be putting my letters in between these two curved lines. So I'm just going to start with your basic A, B, C, and D, okay? And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw stick letters for letter A, and then the B. And we kind of want to make sure that we follow this curve with our letters. We're going to build them out. I just want to space them out. C, and then the D. And it's okay if they're like on a little bit of an angle. You want it to kind of flow with these two curved lines. I'm going to make the A wider now. So now we're going to do a lot of sketching to build out the letters. We're going to put some serifs on. Those are the little boxes on the ends, and we might add some arrows and things like that. So we're just going to get started building out our letters. So you want to follow this curve, and I'm going to start by putting a curved rectangle on top of my A. Come down here. Don't worry about having a lot of sketchy lines on your paper. We're going to be erasing quite a bit of it. So now I'm going to draw out. So we're going to build out our letters from those stick letters to more of a blocky style letter. And I can start to darken my outline once I like the shape of my letter. And this one's going to go right off the page, and that's fine. What I love about graffiti style lettering is that anything goes. Now I'm going to start with the next letter, and I like to make it look like it's kind of touching the first letter. So I'm letting the B touch the A. And I'm just going to come over here and just darken my outline. I like this shape of this B, and then I'm going to come in and put the holes on the inside. Okay, you want to make sure the one on the bottom of the B is bigger than the hole on the top, and the bottom bubbly part of the block letter should be a little bit bigger than the top section, okay? And these are the little serifs that we're going to put on the outside edge. Now for my letter C, I'm going to draw like this rectangular box connected to it. And I'm just going to mass out, build out the letter C here, following this shape, this curve, okay? And I want it to touch the B, and I could even make it look like it goes behind it a little bit. That would be fine. Okay, so now we have some really sketchy letters going on here. Let's see the letter D. For the letter D, it's kind of a simple letter, okay? So I do want it to look like it's going behind the C a little bit, so I'm going to change the angle of this line so that it looks like the letter C is overlapping my letter D. I can come in and do something like this. And I'm going to put the hole inside the D It's like a semicircle. Okay, and if I want, I can even exaggerate and pull out the end of the D over here, closer to the edge of my paper. So now I like the shape of my letters, and I can over exaggerate some of these boxes if I want to. I can kind of make them look like they're curving a little bit. I can make this one a little bigger. You know, before I go in with my Sharpie marker and do my final outline, I just want to make sure I like what my letters look like. I can make them look a little more funky by curving up these little pieces on these serifs on the ends of my letter. And okay, once I like my first 4 letters of the alphabet, I'm not going to erase anything yet. I'm going to take a Sharpie marker and I'm just going to start to outline my final markings, the part of the letters that I really like. So once I like my outline, I'm just gonna, in Sharpie, outline the part that I'm happy with. The rest of the sketchy lines, I'll erase in a little bit. And don't worry about being perfect. This is what's great about graffiti letters. They don't have to be perfect, okay? So now you can see I have my block letters that I just added these rectangular like serifs on the edge, and it kind of makes the letters look a little bit more funky. I just have to take an eraser now, and I can get rid of all of my old pencil lines. Clean up my letters. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is experiment with, you know, creating the entire alphabet would be good, because then you would know exactly how to make all of the letters. And then it'll be really easy for you to do your name, because you will have drawn all the letters. But if you just want to focus on your name, that's fine as well. So now I'm going to show you how to create the name John. I picked a simple four-letter name. So here is the name John, but I'm going to show you how to draw it from scratch. Okay, so students that have longer names, you might want to shorten your name to a nickname, or just do like a few letters of your name, or your initials if you feel like your entire name would be too long. Okay, so the first thing we want to start with again is that curvy, wavy line. And the curvier and the wavier you make it, the more interesting. Remember, you need a parallel line that's going to do the same thing. The more wavy you make your line, the more interesting those letters will become, okay? Now, I want the J to kind of go on an angle here. I don't want it to be straight up and down. I want it to look more interesting. So I'm just going to start with the J, like a hook, okay? And then my O, I'm actually going to turn it sideways like this. Just draw a simple oval. My H, I'm going to kind of follow the same diagonal as the O, but then I'm going to change this side of the H to have it start turning to follow the curve. So my H is going to be close together at the bottom and wider at the top. And then I'm going to put my stick letters in for the letter N. Okay. And that's also going to start to curve a little bit. And now I can start to build out my letter. Okay, so I still have this curve under here. That's going to help me with like the top portion of my J. I'm gonna follow that curve, maybe flip it up a little bit here. It's just like a rectangle. I wanna give the J a thickness. So I'm building out my block letter, building it out. I'm gonna put this end over here. And I wanna make sure it's not too skinny. It's gonna follow the shape of my original line that I sketched. Now I have my oval for my letter O, but the O sometimes isn't that interesting looking, so I always put a dent in it like so. It's up to you if you want to do something like that, and then I'll do that on the inside as well. Okay, almost looks like an artist palette. Okay, just to make the O look a little more interesting. Now I'm gonna move on to my H. I can build out my, I want this to curve. I want this to kind of not be a straight horizontal line. I want it to be a curved horizontal line. And then I'm going to put the tops on, like so. I can follow this curve. And I'm gonna build out my letters. And they could be wider at the top and skinnier at the bottom, like we said. They're gonna kind of meet up like so. This could be longer, and then I'm gonna build out this. So now I know it looks like a lot of sketchy lines and it might be confusing to your eye. So I will darken some of those lines up. If you get really confused with some of the line work, you can start erasing what you don't want. It doesn't confuse me anymore because I've drawn them so many times, but if you get a little confused, you can clean it up before you draw in the Sharpie. And now we're gonna do the N, and I'm gonna put my box on the top here, and then I'll start building out. So you think of this stick line as almost like a skeleton for your letter, and you can draw on either side of that to build out your, you hear snuffling in the background, that's my dog. Hi, Bear. And he just came downstairs to see what I was doing. And there we go. Now I want the N to look like it's underneath the H over here. So if you see, this is the top of this part of the H. This little box on the N is gonna look like it's underneath. And there we go. So now I'm gonna put an arrow on the bottom of this N, kind of just winging it here. There we go. So remember, graffiti is free form, freestyle letters. You could do whatever you want. Even if you wanted to add an arrow to kind of balance it out, maybe we could put one up here. Let's figure it out. So you could put an arrow at the top of this letter and kind of get it to swoop around. Okay, just like that. So like you can change it up. You can make these more, give them a steeper curve, and it's just gonna make your letters look more interesting. Look how I can bring this down if I wanted to, okay? So that's why we sketch. You can play around with it. Maybe the O looks a little too small now that I've made these other letters so long. I can bring my O down a little bit. And now I'm just gonna outline it in Sharpie. And if you wanna tweak anything with the Sharpie, you can. I apologize, I'm a lefty, so I work backwards. So I hope that doesn't confuse you. So I'm gonna start to outline with the Sharpie the name John. And then I will erase, and I'll speed up the erasing so you don't have to watch me erase the paper. And then we'll get started with adding some color. But before that, we're gonna have to put in a drop shadow. So I wanna talk to you about how to do that and where to put it. I mean, you might already know or have an idea of how to do it. Maybe some of you already do graffiti lettering. I'd love to see some of your graffiti lettering if you're already a graffiti master, okay? And I actually want to make the J a little bigger on the bottom, so I can do that. Okay, so there you have it. There's the outline. And then I'm going to erase all the pencil lines, and I'm going to show you how to put in a drop shadow. Okay, because you are probably most likely a beginner at this, we're going to do the drop shadow together, and we're going to draw it in pencil first. So I'm going to do my drop shadow on the left side on most of the letters. Okay, now this one, it's going to kind of go off the paper a little bit. That's fine. We're going to draw, not shaded in completely. We'll use lines, okay? Diagonal lines to create some shading. So if you know anything about shading with lines, the closer the lines are, the darker the area will look. Okay, this has to go on an angle like that. Actually, I did that wrong. Just have to fix that a little bit. There we go. Because we're going to be using these angles. So the closer the lines, the darker the area will be. Okay. So again, I'm going to put it over here, use some diagonal lines. I'll go over this in Sharpie as well. So on the left side, and then on the inside of anything that has an opening. And this just gives you some dimension, okay, to your letters. It gives them a thickness and makes them look a little bit more three-dimensional. Okay, so now I would just take my Sharpie and go in with my drop shadow. And follow. You can use a thinner fine line Sharpie for this too. That tends to look even nicer for these lines, okay? You can fill in some sections with a little more, so you can fill in some chunks, but mostly using lines to create your shadow, your drop shadow. Then anything that you need to change or erase, you can just wait for the Sharpie marker to dry, and then you can erase it. I'm gonna go like this. Change my angle. Okay. Now, if you want to thicken up your outline for your letters, you can do that too. It's totally up to you. So I do like to go back over and make those outlines really bold. So that's up to you. And we'll move on to adding some color. So to add a little more visual interest to my drawing, okay, I can add an outline that kind of follows the outline of the whole entire word or name, okay? If you don't want to do your name, you certainly could do like a positive affirmation, okay? Or a word that you could, you know, create a sign to hang in your room. And if I wanted to keep going, I could actually keep adding more lines to create a pattern or a design in the background. And that you could leave just black and white, or you could add color after we add color to the name. So not to make this too confusing for you, but you know, there are some things you can do to embellish and make your piece look like a little bit more interesting. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna add some color. So I'm gonna start with a warm color scheme, and I'm gonna take some markers, and I'm gonna take yellow, and I'm gonna fill the base of most of the letters with yellow. Okay. And what I'll do is I'm gonna put this on time lapse so that it goes a little quicker. So I'm gonna do the bottom half with the first color, which is yellow. So I actually started with orange, and then I'm adding the yellow because I want to transition to cool colors, and I can't let like reds and oranges touch greens or blues because they'll turn into like real oogie colors. So I want to go from the orange to the yellow, then I want to go to like a yellow, green to blue. Okay. You could use colored pencils for this. You do not have to use markers. It's completely up to you. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed this lesson in how to design graffiti letters, and I can't wait to see your name or your positive affirmation word in graffiti letters. Have a great day.